Hey, everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across the UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today, I'm joined by the fantastic Nesa Rassouli, who is founder and CEO of a sustainable fashion brand called NOMAD, but it's not the typical fashion brand. Hi, Nesa.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I have so much to ask you about this amazing fashion brand that you have because I know it's not a conventional fashion brand. Please tell me your story and explain to us what NOMAD is.
So my story, I think, is a little bit different to your typical founder of a fashion brand story. I was basically born and raised in Dubai. So my family moved here when I was 3 months old. They actually moved to Sharjah. And I've basically been in the UAE for the last 29 years. So this is really my home. I'm very much a third culture kid. This is where I identify with as my yes, where I identify with as my home because I've never left. So my family moved here when I was 3 months old. My dad was actually an entrepreneur. So he had kind of built his business out of here and then moved my mom, my sister, and myself over. And yeah, so then I kind of grew up in Dubai. I've always loved fashion. I really have. Like I was one of those kids where like I'd ask my mom to like bring me home like Vogue and like all these magazines. And anytime she would have them laying around, I'd like snatch them and like go and read them. And like literally from when I was kind of the age of 9, I've kind of knew that I was like super passionate about this. Like I love clothes. I love these photo shoots. I love the things that I'm seeing. And it's just something that I found really aspirational. But I couldn't draw. Like I'm awful at drawing. I have no artistic talent. Like I'm not someone who can sit there and sketch. Like I can barely draw a stick man. And then as I kind of got older, the dream kind of started forming more into like a pipe dream. And it was kind of always felt like something that I would never kind of get to do because I didn't have these like, I guess like stereotypical kind of, assets that you need to have as an individual to work in the fashion industry in any capacity. So then once I got a little bit older, I went to university. At first I studied business, hated it. Then I started interior design. I was like, love it, but not for me. And then I actually went and got my degree in PR, media, and advertising, actually in Dubai as well. So I never left. And then I actually started working in the fitness industry. So I found this like massive passion for fitness when I was 18 years old. I just fell in love with it. I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever because I wake up every day and I get to help people. And like I get to help people find, purpose and passion and love for themselves through what I get to do on a daily basis. So I actually worked in the fitness industry for about 6 years. And then I worked my way up the ladder. Like I really started at the bottom, like really, really at the bottom of the barrel as a PT and working at like the smaller kind of gyms, like the newer ones that just didn't have experienced trainers. And then really just worked my way up the ladder in the fitness industry. By the time I had kind of stepped back, I was, PTing like VIP level clients. I was working at Barry's, which was the biggest name in the fitness industry. And like, yeah, thank you. I really worked my way up there. And then I took on the management role for doing the retail at Barry's because I was like, I love clothes. Like I just want to work with them. Like I really love it. So I was like, let me find a way where I can do this. So I started doing the retail at Barry's and put together a couple of collections. And then through that, I kind of started realizing like, I'm more excited for this kind of side hustle thing that I have going on than I am my day-to-day job at this point. And in the back of my mind, again, I always love fashion. I always love fashion. Like anytime I would kind of, read articles or see people doing things in fashion, I was like, God, I just wish I could do that. I just wish I could find a way to make that my life, but it's just not my path, like my path, maybe in the next life. I don't know. And then unfortunately, 5 years ago, I lost my dad. And then losing my dad is actually what made me think, okay, like it's time. Growing up as a daughter of an entrepreneur, you see the hustle, you see how hard they work, you see what they put into their business and their life and what they provide for their family. And it was actually always my dad that would say to me, like, you have the business gene, like you need to have a business, like you need to start something, you need to do something, like this is you, I know it is, like out of like your siblings, like you are the business one. And I'd be like, no, dad, it's not me. He always wanted me to join the family business. I never did. And then after I lost my dad, I was like, okay, so I need to do something that I know he wanted me to do. And I need to do something that while I still have my mom, I want to do something to make her proud. And I want to do something to kind of, pay homage to my dad's legacy. Like he brought us up in this business household. He always told me that he believed in me. It's time and I'm going to go do it. And I could have taken the easy route and gone and done something in fitness because I had the experience, I had the know-how, I had the connections. But I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to take the big leap and I'm going to do kind of what I always wanted to do. So then came Nomad. So at the end of 2021, I resigned in fitness. I kind of like worked out my leave, worked out my clients, and sorry, the end of 2020. Then January 2021 was like crunch time. Like business plan was ready, everything was ready, get the trade license, set up the bank account, and I started the business. And at the time, I had someone that had a lot of fashion experience that was helping me with a lot of guidance and giving me advice and kind of showing me the ropes on how to kind of start a fashion brand. So I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, I just started. It was just a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of reaching out to people, asking for advice. Nomad was actually supposed to start as a swimwear brand, but I was like, we live in an eternal summer. Like I live in the Middle East. So like we gotta get some resort wear in there, like just make clothes that feel really comfortable for people, things that people can wear all the time. And obviously the sustainability part was a no-brainer. It's like, if you're gonna go do something now, it's like, it was 2021, do it the right way. Like swallow a little bit of margin, like pay a little bit more and do something that's right for the planet. So that was kind of never even a question in my mind as to how thank you, how we're gonna make the clothes. My sister is actually like a sustainability guru. She's incredible. She actually has her own sustainable, not clothing brand, but her own sustainable business as well. So she actually studies sustainability at Cambridge University in the UK. Yeah. So I was really lucky in that she gave me a lot of guidance. So like she debunked a lot of myths that I was reading online where like, just as a small example, like to use compostable packaging. It's like, yeah, we're going to use compostable packaging. She was like, no, you're not, because there's no compost in this region. And I was like, okay. So then we decided to go for recycled LDPE, which could then be recycled because we have a lot of recycling facility here. So luckily I had that assistance and guidance from my sister to really make the right decisions based on the fabrics we were choosing, the materials we were choosing. I started with a super small team. We scaled up, we started hiring more people, and I really couldn't do it without them. My team are my entire world. They are amazing. And yeah, now we're here 3 years on, and we have 5 collections. We've got everything from swimwear to resort wear to active wear to lounge wear. And basically our long-term goal is to have a one-stop shop. So we also have a menswear collection, but our goal, I guess, for the next 3 years would be somewhere that people come to buy all of their products, whether it's their gym clothes or their beach clothes or, their handbags or their shoes or whatever, and they get to shop sustainably at an accessible price point. So I find the real issue with a lot of the sustainable, like on-trend brands, is that it's at a very high price point. So the point with Nomad is also like, you can shop with us sustainably. It's clothes that are good for the environment, clothes that are going to last you a really long time. They're seasonless, they are timeless. We go for a lot of like very basic silhouettes, and it's something that you could buy in the mall. Like we price against high street retailers, so it's something that is accessible to everybody. That's a little bit of a background.
All right, episode over. Just kidding. You just gave me all the info that I needed. That's beautiful. I love the fact that you just like said every single detail. The fact that you gave so much context to the story. Like you've done my job so much better than I could have done. Like all the questions I would have asked you are answered. But I love the fact that you are doing something that you've always wanted to do, something that actually like comes to you from the heart. Like it's not something that you were like, there were no family expectations of you to go into this type of business. There was no kind of forced like financial nature for you to go into a type of business. It was simply because you enjoy fashion. And of course, it's amazing that you focus on sustainability as well. But having like knowing the type of market that we're in and the type of challenges that come with a sustainable brand, what would you say has been the biggest challenge of you creating this fashion brand that is Nomad?
I would just say working in fashion is a beast on its own. It's a very volatile industry. It's not easy to get into. It's not easy to get the right kind of exposure or attention to be able to scale the company. So as someone with no contacts in fashion, not knowing anybody and just kind of trying to pave your way, I think whether it's sustainable or not, because a lot of the times actually the bigger buyers are interested in a sustainable brand, but they'll go for somebody who has, more connections or more, more experience. And it's a gamble to it's a gamble to take a risk on a homegrown brand from a founder that no one's ever heard of before, because generally it's someone that has a name in the fashion industry or somewhere or somehow and has then developed their own brand. So it's kind of like, who is this girl? Where is this brand?
Why is she here?
Why is she here? Like, do you go here? Like, it's like kind of one of those things where you're trying to make a name for yourself and your brand. So that's been a really big obstacle for us because, of course, just having a brand, you want to scale it, but someone's got to take a bet on you. Someone's got to believe in you, and someone's got to be like, I'm gonna put my bet on you and hope that you grow and just take that risk. And it's luckily we have had quite a few people that have been kind enough to believe in me and the vision, especially as it's developed, because at first it was just very much about creating comfortable, timeless, sustainable clothing. But over the last sort of year, we've kind of pivoted to be like, okay, well, our clothes are really comfy and like they're really comfortable because our design process is completely centered around two things. One is that it's good for the environment, or as good as it can be creating new clothes, because obviously just that's a whole conversation in and of itself. And another thing is the comfort, like from the fabric to the waistband to where the seams are to everything is always about comfort. And that actually kind of stems from the fact that I actually have ADHD. So I struggle with clothes a lot of the time. So like anybody that knows me knows, like first thing when I get home, like my pants are coming off, I need to change into something comfy because I feel like suffocated or claustrophobic. So when I create the clothes, I'm always like, but is it comfortable? Do you feel comfortable? Like, could you wear this all day? So that's kind of where we've kind of pivoted in the last year to be a lot more thoughtful around people that are neurodivergent. I did a lot of campaign work last year. A friend of mine actually has a campaign centered around people that get stomas. So we basically became the official clothing sponsor for that campaign. It's mostly based in the UK. Thank you. It's mostly based in the UK, but I was given an incredible opportunity to meet people that have ended up with a stoma bag from all kinds of different, illnesses and life-altering, like chronic illness. And I was given the opportunity in November to actually go to Birmingham with my friend and her campaign. It's called Beyond the Stoma. And basically get to talk to these people face to face that, some of them have worn Nomad products and they know the brand and, they've seen it in the campaign. They had like 5 heroes in the campaign and all of them were wearing Nomad. And I got the opportunity to kind of give them advice and get feedback. Like, what do you struggle with? Like, what are you looking for when you shop? Like, what are we missing here? And actually a lot of the feedback were like, the Nomad clothes are really comfortable and they're stylish. And like, yeah. And that was like, honestly, like being fully transparent, I've cried a lot of times from this experience out of just happiness that I've got to make these people feel comfortable. Like I got to help someone in a very small way that, help them feel more comfortable. Like a lot of the people that were in the campaign, were thankful for the campaign because it gave them confidence and made them feel a lot better about themselves. And they were wearing my clothes. And like my clothes weren't specifically designed for that purpose, but just from kind of my own neurodivergence and like designing like the clothes for being comfortable, we just so happened to appeal to that market. And a lot of the feedback, yeah, it was honestly like last year was life-changing for me and life-changing for the brand, because we were like, we don't specifically cater for the neurodivergent demographic or, chronic illness demographic, but just the fact that we focus so much on comfort in the clothing appeals to this whole demographic of people that we didn't even realize. And, they don't want to be like shopping from brands that are like, this is for people with ADHD, if you have ADHD, this is good for you. But we're just like, hey, our clothes are really comfy. Like, just like,
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
No, that's
like,
beautiful.
Yeah, and so from that, I actually started doing a lot of surveying with the customers, and the number one feedback is the clothes are so comfortable. And that's kind of what helped Nomad evolve into basically neuro-inclusive outfits, mindfully adapted for diversity. So we really consider the complete diversity of spectrum of people that might ever possibly want to wear Nomad. And we have something for everyone. Like, we literally have the resort wear, the jumpsuits, the swimwear, the, you know, the active wear, the graphic tees, you know, like I'm a graphic tee kind of girl, you know? So like, then I was like, you know, like, let's expand it a little bit. I don't want to be in, you know, my resort wear all the time. But how can we make sure that this is as comfortable as possible? What fabrics do we need to use? We need to make sure like there's no labeling in the back, because sometimes with graphic tees, it's really scratchy. That's not comfortable for people that have, you know, neurodivergent issues. So that's kind of where we've evolved into now. And going back to your question on how is that a challenge? Like, obviously going against the grain in any way as a brand is obviously a challenge, because that makes you more of a risk factor. You know, that doesn't actually appeal to like the giants in the industry that will help you grow as a brand. But for us, I'd rather go down fighting and, you know, giving people that don't feel represented something that makes them feel good than scale to like a huge degree and just be another brand that's just doing what, you know, the industry wants them to do.
I don't say this often on this show, but I'm actually at a loss of words for how like you have just like hit deep in such a beautiful but also such a difficult topic. And I am so inspired by the passion and the work ethic that you have. Like, you have not thought just about a basic, not that it's basic, but you have not thought just about the fashion brand element of it, but you've also thought of the actual kind of, you know, the customers and what is the most comfortable for them. But also, like, you've touched on an important topic that is kind of mental health and being comfortable within your own skin, no matter what kind of conditions or phase or special needs that there is somebody who has considered that element, and that's beautiful. And the story that you just mentioned about the campaign that you supported, even though it wasn't actually tailored for them, like that for me is so wonderful that you were able to organically get picked up by someone like that, by a campaign like that, and all you did was follow your heart. And I just think that it's so important for other women to hear the story and to know that you doing something from the heart, doing good for the people, for the community, that does come back to you, and that is good karma that comes back to you. And I'd love to hear kind of, I know that I was going to originally ask you about a funny, crazy, wild story that you have, but I think that's my favorite story of the day that you just shared now. And I would love to hear your word of advice for people, young women, young men that are looking to maybe create a fashion business or just a startup business and maybe too scared to take the first step.
You know, I always struggle with questions like this, because I'm always like, well, do you have any advice for me? Because I'll take, if anyone has some advice they want to give me, listen, I'm all ears. So guys, drop me a message. But I would say it's hard. And I was kind of urged to caution by this before I started my brand. My family, who have obviously run their own business for 20 years, my friends who had their own companies were like, you're gonna struggle. Like, it's gonna get hard, and it's gonna be like, it's gonna be a whole nother realm of difficulty that you're never gonna expect. I was like, hey, I know. You won't know until you get there. But what I can say that I learned is that you'll never fully be ready, because even if you have the business plan is in place, you know, kind of like your profit and loss sheet, how you're going to tackle it. This is my marketing campaign. This is what I want to create. These are the products that I want to do. I'm set. I'm ready. I'm going to go. And it's going to go. It's going to be amazing. There will be an obstacle every single day. You're going to be firefighting all the time. So I would say, be prepared for adversity, be ready to pivot quickly, make informed decisions. I'd say one thing that I did a lot of times was I would work on impulse, because I didn't have that business experience. Don't be too impulsive. Take your time making your decisions. Try and collect as much data as you possibly can. Again, as someone with ADHD, I tend to be impulsive, and like, I may not, you know, certain times like pull all the data that I need, but make informed decisions. Hiring your team. Now, as a startup, you're never going to be able to hire someone unless you have some crazy budget, which if you do, good for you. But if you don't, Hire people that may not necessarily be the top and the greatest and the most experienced in their position, but the most willing to learn and the most willing to help. I got super lucky with my team because, for example, I have like an accountant who will do marketing stuff with me sometimes, and I have like a marketing exec that will jump in and be a model for the campaign shoots because we don't have enough budget to pay that many models, so hire a team that are ready and believe in your vision and believe in you and create an amazing relationship with them, because the more you prioritize them, their happiness, their life, be empathetic towards them, the more you give to your team, the more you'll receive back. But don't give with the expectation to receive. Just give because you want them to be happy working with you and because you want them to be happy building your brand with you, because it gets dark. It gets really hard sometimes. I can't tell you the amount of times I've sat there on the sofa and just cried and been like, I don't know if I can do this because I don't have the know-how. But a lot of times the things that have kept me going is like, my team show up every day and fight. So I'm going to fight for me, for them, and for this brand that we're trying to create together, because it takes a village. Like it really does. You can't do it on your own. I mean, if you can, call me, give me some advice, but it's not something you can do on your own. So have an amazing team, make informed decisions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of times I struggled with asking the people around me for help because I didn't want them to question me and make me feel like I was, I didn't want to ask dumb questions. Like I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was doing because I'm a CEO now, but it's okay to ask questions that people might be like, how do you not know the answer to that? Because you won't know until you know and until you get there. So get ready to cross the hurdles, extend your hand, ask for help, be nice to people, because karma is a real thing. And as long as you're a good person, good things will come to you. And make sure it's something that you love, because you're going to get up every day fighting for this. It is a battle. It's not going to come easy. If you get a stroke of luck, great. Most people don't. Get up every day and make sure that it's something you want to fight for. Create something with a why. What is your purpose? Because when it gets dark and hard and it feels impossible, when you have a solid purpose, it's worth fighting for, no matter what.
I'm just holding for the applause in case there's anything else you want to add, because I don't want to interrupt that beautiful speech.
No, that's it. I think I'm done now. Thank you.
I think I applauded like 6 times for you in one episode. Thank you so much for sharing this story, Nesa. I am at a loss for words. You have such incredible passion for what you do. You are trying so hard to stick to yourself and your values at the same time. Like you are sticking to who you are. You are not changing. Like your values aren't changing as a human. You are so humble, and I can fully feel from you the fire and the energy that you have. And just I love the fact that you always, thinking people first and my people first, my team first, people that are willing to learn, because it's so important for us to set reasonable expectations and remember that we're human at the end of the day. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye.